So we thought we'd talk about handhelds this month in the podcast. And part of the reason for that is I picked up the Anbernic Win 600 because the Steam Deck's not available in Australia and won't be for a while. And the Aya Neo is about $2,000, which is expensive. It looks good. It looks like a really nice piece of kit, but a little bit rich for me. So I picked up the Anbernic Win 600 for $500, and I've really enjoyed it. I think it's a great little handheld console, and we thought we'd talk about that in the podcast this week. So I guess the big question here is, are we getting to the point where we don't need TV consoles? Are we going to be playing everything on our handhelds soon enough?
So
I mean, not just
wanna
TV consoles,
say,
also PCs, but yeah, we're going to be playing everything handheld soon.
I want to say no to that just because no one is designing games for handhelds anymore. And it's getting really, really frustrating. Because with a console game, right, they can expect you to sit down and hold your attention for an hour or 2 hours. And they'll use techniques like save points, or they'll use techniques like long cutscenes or consistent immersive set pieces. And none of that works on handheld because you're going to get distracted every 5 minutes. Like, even if I'm sitting on my couch and playing a handheld, I will get distracted way more easily. So I hope they find a way to fix this.
That's interesting because most people would say they wanted their handhelds to be closer and closer to the TV console experience anyway. I mean, that was, I guess that was a big part of the appeal of the Switch originally, that it was by far and away the most powerful kind of handheld console that you could
It
then also
is,
hook
but
up to your TV, but it gave you that kind of console quality game in your hands as such.
it is, but it's a different relationship with the game. Maybe this is just me and my proclivities. But even something like Splatoon, which was designed around the Wii U being partially handheld, it's shorter, it's much punchier. Like, you have much less commitment playing it compared to an arena shooter, right? We were sitting down for half an hour to do it. I don't know. It's just a different way of thinking for me.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But I mean, at the same time, the Switch launched with Breath of the Wild, which was certainly a game that you were designed to sit there and play for many hours at a time and drain the battery in kind of one go. So I definitely thought with the Switch, Nintendo's goal was to put that console experience in the hands for the first time. Because before that, it was like the 3DS, right? So it was a very different kind of handheld experience.
Yeah, you were definitely getting like a lesser experience for whatever you played.
Well, even if you talk about just the Zelda games, like the 3DS, for example, it had what did it have? It had the Link's
Link
Awakening.
Between Worlds.
Yeah, Link's
No,
Link's
it didn't have
Between
it
Worlds.
there.
Yeah, Link's
It
Awakening was
just
on the
had it.
Switch. Yes, and it also had the
It
Four
did drop the
Swords spiritual
console Zelda
sequel.
games.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Ocarina of Time. Why did it take me so long to remember that? Ocarina and Majora's Mask did release on the 3DS, and it was just a N64 game running on a handheld. And that also did annoy me because I would stop mid dungeon and have no idea where I was or what I was doing.
yeah. Compared to like the other ones, they definitely felt like you were like meant to sit down for a little bit longer and play those ones compared to the other 3DS games. Like, there was a bit more of a jarring difference between the experiences. Even if you look at the DS one, like Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass, like they were designed that you'd go back to a central location, you would do something, and then you would sort of like maybe save the game and come back to it later, kind of thing.
Yeah, and even Breath of the Wild is really bite-sized. It's shrines and Korok seeds, and spend as much time as you want. But if you spend 15 minutes, you've done something.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, well, you're playing the game. You could be like, okay, well, I'm going to do 3 shrines, or I'm going to do this, one of the spirit animal things, or I'm going to go and explore this area. And even then, you can just like collect a few things and say, okay, well, time's up. I've done this for like 15 minutes kind of thing. Let's go and do something else, like, mow the lawn or do the washing or something like that.
I really, really, really don't think that was the kind of the goal with the game, though. Yeah, it might have been split up that way, but I definitely think that Nintendo's intent with Breath of the Wild was that you would spend quite a longer time playing it in a session, because a lot of the appeal of that game was really about immersion, and it was about spending time kind of, putting yourself in that world. And
I'm sure they planned around it though. There's no way they didn't plan around having that, because the comparison I would have is something like Metal Gear Solid, that series, where sometimes a cutscene will occur and it'll be 20 minutes long and you've just got to sit through that.
yeah, well, I don't think that series has ever been about cutscenes though. It's always told its story in a more directly interactive way rather than a passive cinematic way. And I just don't think, even the short amount of time that I've spent playing Breath of the Wild, those sessions, a couple of times that I did play it, they were fairly lengthy because the game just guides you into spending a lot of time sitting there playing it in one go. So I definitely think that Nintendo's goal with the Switch was to put that console experience in the hands, and they made it easy to play it in a pick up and go kind of way, because you could suspend and restart without having to save and all those kinds of things. So those features were there, but that console was the first where the equivalent experience to the TV console was there in your hands. So I think that they did it, and that was a good thing. And now we've got the likes of the Steam Deck and stuff putting the AAA gamers such in the hands as well. I know the Steam Deck can play pretty much anything pretty comfortably. If you were to put your Cyberpunk or GTA or whatever on there, it'll handle it, I believe, pretty well. The win.
I'd say it's more of a quality of life features which are coming out, which are sort of helping, you know, condense the experience. And also, if you want to sit down and experience that, like, going back to the Switch, like, you know, you can easily have that, 5 minute, session of Breath of the Wild, or you could be like, I'm going to be immersed into the game, like the game's designed to suck you in. And you can put it on the TV and you can play it for a bit, or you can have it portable and maybe, be sitting in the back of the car kind of thing. I don't know. Like, you can have either world with just all the new quality of life features. And you've got stuff like the NES games, they've got like save states and you can roll back. Like if you die like constantly and you're a 6-year-old kid, you can be like, oh, I can just press this button and roll back in like 5 seconds, and then I get like 3 hearts again, and then you stab the guy and then you die again, and then you just roll back 5 seconds.
I think those quality of life things that you're talking about, they're all part of the intent of the way that the likes of Steam are handling their entry into the console as well. Like, for example, the cloud save system works really well with Steam. I downloaded, for example, Persona 4 Golden onto the Win 600, and when I loaded it up, the save was right there, ready to go, and I played it a bit, and then loaded up on my PC, and the save was there, and it was all seamless. I didn't need to do anything myself. It just automatically backs up. Yeah, it just automatically backs up to the cloud. It's all just really seamless, the way that these devices are kind of being made to interact with. It's about your game is kind of this concept. It doesn't really exist on any device. It's whatever you're playing it on. You can kind of seamlessly pick it up and continue on with it, which I think is really neat. And I think that's the way it needs to be if these things are going to work. It's not so much about the platform you play the game on now. It's more just about having access to that game. And I think that's
people these days won't know the struggle of memory cards.
Yeah. I think it's a good addition to have as well, that you can pick your game up and play it kind of on the go anywhere, and kind of have that. If you're really into a game, then you don't need to wait until you get home to play it some more, if that makes sense. If you've got,
do you feel that changes the experience?
No, I don't think
significantly different about it.
No, I don't think so. The good thing about these devices is the screen quality is there, so that when I first started to play these games, for example, I thought that the text size might be a bit of a problem. as it happens quite often with the
Yeah, with the
Switch
Switch,
ports.
oh, it's such a problem. I
Yeah,
hate it
that
so much.
the developers haven't really thought about the move to the smaller screen, and the text becomes very unreadable as a result. All the games I've played so far on this thing have not had that problem because I think the screen quality is quite high, and it's just quite easy to read. I haven't come across that yet. I'm sure there will probably be incidences where it won't work, but for now it's okay. Other than that, I don't think I think the experience is enhanced by having access to these games on the go. I don't think it's kind of taken away. And now that you've got the ability to connect to the internet pretty much anywhere via hotspots and 4G and 5G, there if you're playing online games, then you don't really need to worry about that. So I think all of this is it's happening quickly, I think, is the thing. At the
Yeah, it's
start
kind
of
of like an arms race, really. The
yeah,
moment that Steam Deck started talking about going handheld, everybody was getting in on that.
well, that was the thing. I mean, before Steam Deck, there were options to have Windows on a portable console, but they were pretty clunky and really, really expensive. And I don't think anybody really thought about the user experience of them. But Steam comes along with their one and shows how it should be done, I guess. And then everybody started to rush to bring them out. Like this Ambinic one is the first time Ambinic's done a Windows thing. Before that, that would have been Linux-based kind of or Android emulation consoles. This is the first time they've done something that you can have Windows on, and that's always been important, that you've had kind of one pioneering company that forces everybody else to suddenly pay attention on how to do it right.
Yeah, I hate that
And
it's Steam.
yeah, it is kind of annoying that it is Steam, but Steam has been the right platform for it because they do have that really good online infrastructure already. And
Yeah,
the
it's also
Steam,
good that they can just go, by the way, all the games you already have, you can play them now.
yeah, exactly. And like I said, the cloud saves and stuff make it so seamless to just pick up and play your games exactly where you were. You don't need to restart them. You can just continue to play them as they are. So that's a good thing. I guess the one thing I would have liked is the one thing I think Steam needs to investigate, I guess, is to make it somehow possible to stream these games, not just download them.
Do you mean like stream via your internet to play when it's running on your computer, or like stream as in to a stream, like a Twitch service?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, play them like you would play Game Pass, for example. And that's another thing that I have been messing around with the Ambinic is I signed up for the Microsoft Game Pass thing, and in that you get cloud gaming. So rather than have to download the game, you can stream it directly to your device, and it works really, really well. I have my issues with subscription services, but that's the monetization of them. What I really do like is the technology behind the streaming, because the Ambinic's a pretty underpowered device. It can't do AAA gaming. But when you're streaming them, all of a sudden you have access to literally anything. And I've played the Mass Effects and Dragon Ages right through to Skyrim and a whole bunch of other games that the Ambinic would not be able to handle using its internal system. When it's just streamed, it's quite capable of it. So that is, I guess, the next step. And I would like to see Steam find some way to make your library streamable, so not just downloadable, if that makes
I
sense.
remember you being a big fan of cloud gaming, just even when it was a really new concept, like 10 years ago when they first teased the possibility of it. You were like, yeah, this is going to be the future.
Yeah, I really do think that that is an excellent thing. Obviously, you've got to have an internet connection to be able to play your games if you're going to stream them. But like I said, with 5G in particular, it can definitely handle game streaming. It's faster than most most kind of wired connections. So as
But I
that
find that
continues,
they're
as that
not really
continues,
investing in it.
well,
Most companies, I mean.
well, 5G is still rolling out, and it's not going to happen overnight. But as it continues to grow, as it continues to permeate and then replaces 4G in more places, then the convenience of that is going to be. It means that things like streaming services can be done anywhere, and people will have a reliable expectation that they'll be able to do them anywhere. So then I guess the question is just whether the economics are there that Steam or whoever, Valve, could take the library of games and make them streamable. I would like to think they can. I mean, the Apple TV already does that with movies. So I've got 400 movies or whatever on my Apple, and you don't have to download them to play them on your Apple TV. You buy them and then you can just stream them whenever you want to watch them. So I think it can be done. I think a lot of the games industry is kind of committed to forcing subscriptions on people, and that's a problem. But that's a separate issue to the stream in itself. And I think in the games industry, that's been conflated a bit, that streaming comes with subscriptions, but I don't think that needs to be the case. And I would like to see you have the ability to buy the game and then stream it rather than have to download it and play it. When that happens, then kind of the sky's the limit. You'll be able to play AAA games or, very high quality games that you bought on anything from the cheapest of Androids through to these kind of handheld consoles right up to your PC, and just do that seamlessly. So I think that's where things would ideally go. And at that point,
well, I guess that's the
be
kind of
awesome.
push with the Xbox ecosystem at the moment. Like,
Yeah, because you
the
have it on
original
everything.
the original Xbox One, I think, Microsoft was definitely way too early for their concept, and they might have had some, some of their ideas were a little bit not thought out. But definitely the original Xbox One concept is definitely where we are, now. Like, it's crazy to think that a lot of the stuff the Xbox One was, going to do, that's now considered standard for, both Sony and Microsoft. And then you've got this huge push right now to, the Xbox is essentially going to be not an Xbox. They can get it in Samsung TVs and have access to the cloud streaming stuff. Like, it's interesting to see that, they're moving away from you having a physical hardware. You buy, your TV or whatever, and you can stream whatever games you've purchased or whatever you've got in Game Pass. Like, that is the push. I don't think Sony's really pushing as hard at the moment. Like, they've got stuff in some regions, but it doesn't seem as, really there yet. It seems more like a beta product, like Sony's ideas. Like, they've only just really changed their subscription setup, for example, as well, to match what Microsoft's doing with Game Pass.
That's kind of my problem with Microsoft, is that they have attached their concept to the stream as well. Sorry, to the subscriptions as well. Like that cloud gaming thing, which I really love. You can only access that via Game Pass. So if I didn't want to use Game Pass and I wanted to buy Dragon Age and play it and stream it, I couldn't do that. I could stream it if I was a subscriber. I can't stream it if I'm not. So that annoys me, because that is definitely, if this is the vision that Microsoft has for the future, which I think is a good vision and will be great for everybody, because like I said, it'll mean you'll be able to play your Dragon Ages or your Forzas or your Gears of War or your Halos on the cheapest Androids out there. You spend $100 and you've got a console on the go. But if they're going to then attach that you have to be a subscriber to Game Pass to get that functionality, then I have a big issue with it. And I would like to see the industry split the two, that you can stream without, you can own or buy and then stream, or you can be a subscriber if you want to the system. That's the only way it's going to really work for me.
Matt, it's time to admit you don't own games anymore. Like,
it's not about
game...
it's not about ownership. It's about the fact that these games drop off those services, and at that point they're lost.
Well, you have Project Cars, for example, just dropped off. Their games are going to be taken off stores soon because they're lost
because of licensing, and that
licensing.
and that is really I'm not happy about that. And if you think about that, kind of exploded to a massively bigger scale of games being kind of made accessible and inaccessible based on commercial dealings, then subscriptions are going into a very, very nasty place. Like when I load up the cloud gaming thing at the moment, there's like a dozen games that are leaving Game Pass soon, and that doesn't work for me. That's my issue with it. It's not about ownership. I've never cared that much about ownership of stuff. I was an early adopter of digital games when everybody was like, why would you download them? You got to buy them on
You
physical
named
and
your
stuff.
website after them.
Yeah, exactly. I've never cared that much about the ownership, because I think it's always just a kind of an illusion anyway, because physical media dies as well. And um, I think on a whole, having digital access to stuff is better. But the key there is the access word, and subscriptions change the access because they take the control of the access well and truly away from the consumer and put it purely on the whims of the corporate, which I don't like. For another example, at the moment, if you're a subscriber to Game Pass, you do get access to a whole bunch of EA stuff because they've got that relationship going. But then there was the rumors that
Oh, you just know they're gonna do that. You
well,
just know they're gonna make their own service.
there were the rumors that Amazon's going to go and buy EA. Now, those rumors haven't played out for now, but if that does happen, then access to all that EA stuff on Game Pass will probably just disappear. And again, that is a problem. If you the games industry can only be an art form if there is some kind of effort to make this stuff accessible and preserve it for future generations, and people should not have to rely on the whims of these companies with these subscription services to be able to play these games. So yeah, I have no problem with streaming. I think streaming's excellent. I just don't like the way it's delivered to us.
Yeah, well, I guess with everything becoming games as service, we're kind of sort of also heading in, to the point where if you want like your, Fortnite or your, the latest Splatoon or something like that, you would probably get this in the streaming service, and it would just be a generic title. It doesn't need to be, Call of Duty 4 or something like that. It's just Call of Duty, and you're signing into Call of Duty, and you have whatever the current licensing has for maps and levels and whatever, and that's the experience you have, and you just have whatever you can get. Like Forza, for example, might be like that. Like you just be like, okay, well, whatever the current Forza is, I have all the music licenses, I have all the locations, but in like a year or two, Forza might be in this location and I don't have access to this anymore. Like that seems to be where we're heading in terms of, stuff moving more towards streaming and also games of a service at the same time.
And that's a great and a terrible thing, because it's weird that we've reached this point, going back to even handhelds, where moving towards a world where if we want to play games, we can play it anything, anywhere, all the time, right? Regardless of where we are, we have the access to play them. But if we want to play a specific game, we're going to get increasingly more difficult processes to try and achieve that, which is really bizarre to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have to subscribe to more of these bloody subscription services to access them as well. At some point,
we need to
Sony's
watch Netflix very carefully, because Netflix had this golden era of we have just about everything. So if you want to watch any movie, you come to us. And now, because of all the new services, it's become a case of you can watch a film or you can watch a TV show on Netflix. But if you want to find one thing that you really want to watch, you need to first download an app that will tell you what service it's going to be on for what window, and you need to specifically subscribe to that service. It's just become this huge nightmare.
Yeah, and it's the cost of it all as well that really bothers me. Like when it was just Netflix, then great. You pay your $15-20 a month or whatever it was, and you would have access to all this stuff, and that was it. But now you need to have access to, if you want to watch Game of Thrones or the new game, whatever the new Game of Thrones is called, if you want to watch that, you've got to have access to Binge in Australia. If you want to watch Lord of the Rings, you're going to have access to the Amazon Prime. If you want to watch another show, you'll need to have Stan, and then you also need to have Netflix for the stuff that Netflix has.
Yeah,
and
all those
Disney
are
Plus for all the
all of
Marvel stuff.
yeah, and then you've got to have Disney for the Marvel stuff, and then all of a sudden you're now paying over $100 a month just to have access. And when you want to watch something, you'll be able to. So people are either going to have to keep subscribing and unsubscribing to stuff when they want to watch something, which kind of removes the ability to just watch it at a whim, or they're going to have to maintain a whole bunch of subscriptions for stuff they're not using when something isn't interesting to them, just so that if down the track they want to rewatch something, then they can. That's coming to the game space as well. I mean, already we've got Games Pass, and at the moment, they're basically the only one, and people aren't too unhappy about paying the $15 a month, whatever it is, for the Game Pass. But Sony's got one coming for sure, and then you'll be able to play your Sony games on these devices, but that'll be another 30, that'll be another $15 subscription. And then Amazon will buy its way into EA or whatever, and then you'll have an Amazon one, and then Google will have one, and then Apple will do something to expand the arcade out in a way that you have to have that subscription. And all of a sudden, you'll be spending $100 a month in subscription services just to be able to play the game you want to when you want to. So, in theory, all this stuff is meant to be about convenience and value for money and whatever. And individually, it would be, except for the fact that all these companies are kind of cutting you off. They've got all this exclusive content, and if you're not going to buy into every single one of them, then you're going to miss out on stuff. And I can't stand that. I absolutely hate that.
It's interesting that there's a bigger push for piracy again. Like,
Oh,
that sort of
absolutely.
had settled down for like a long time when these streaming services were in their, infancy, that, streaming is the future, streaming is going to be great. Maybe you had one or two streaming services, but you didn't have like 5, 6, 8 under the belt. And then all of a sudden, because everything's so spread thin, it's, I see a lot of stuff more in my feed and stuff like that of people saying, well, retweeting stuff like, well, we're going to pirate this because, it's just inconvenient to do X, Y, and Z, or comics which are like, about piracy and stuff all of a sudden. Like, it's just seems to be back in the front again because of how these services are designed.
And that was absolutely the thing. Like when Netflix was new and Netflix was 90% of the stuff was there and you only needed one subscription, people did stop pirating, and that was a good thing. Certainly don't condone pirating when there is an alternative, but people feel like there's no alternative again. If they want to watch something, they don't have unlimited money. The economy's fucked in the, everybody's trying to just buy bloody lettuces and eggs at the moment. So they don't have massive amounts of money to keep thrown around behind all of these services just to watch what they want to. So yeah, they are turning back to piracy. They should turn back to piracy because, to be honest, these companies don't deserve the support of people's money. It's and
there's also just the smaller problem as well, that it's changing the way we engage with media, because with this kind of design, if your use of video games is basically as a sedative to make your time pass, then that's what all these services are trying to do, right? Is that they just want something to capture your time and attention so that you don't go to somebody else. And it's going to change the way they design games, is that they're going to make you want to play longer rather than have any kind of meaningful finite experience.
Yeah, that is an issue with subscription services as well, because also from the development side of things, the only way they get kind of monetized as such is by having people play for quite long periods of time. I think pretty much every single existing subscription service pays out based on the amount of time people spend playing that game. So developers are really incentivized to make games that just don't stop, and you end up playing them for 400, 500, 600 hours. Because if you make a game that tells a really good story, like South of the Circle, I can never remember. I keep thinking South of the Equator. It's not. If you,
I mean, technically it is.
If you go and make a game like South of the Circle, which is a couple of hours long, tells a really good story, you don't get paid for that because you just do not get enough money out of each individual person. They play it once and they kind of don't again. So those developers are in big trouble with all of this stuff. The other thing is that as subscription services become more standardized, people stop buying games up front. I've seen the numbers for Xbox, for example, and it has fundamentally dropped off completely. How many people are willing to buy games up front because they just subscribe to their Game Pass, and that's it. So those developers that are trying to create these kind of short or narrative intense experiences, they are in a lot of trouble. The market for them is disappearing very quickly, unfortunately.